You're not ready. Who do you think you are? They'll see right through you.
That voice in your head never shuts up, does it? It questions your parenting choices. It replays that conversation where you said too much. It whispers, not enough, when you're actually doing pretty well. This voice follows you everywhere. No escape. And most people think this voice is them, but it's not. Yet, this voice controls your life more than money, talent, or luck ever could. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to shut up that enemy voice and replace it with a coach that drives you forward instead. Your inner voice is either the best coach you'll ever have or the enemy that's ruining your life. Right now, millions of people walk around with their worst enemy screaming in their ear all day, and they wonder why they're stuck. So let me ask you, who is talking in your head right now? Dr. Jim Layer, one of the world's top performance psychologists, puts it powerfully. Our inner voice can be a significant detriment or a life-enhancing asset. He identifies two distinct versions of this voice. Number one, the raw, untrained voice, what I call the enemy voice. And number two, the intentionally trained voice, what I call the ally voice. These names aren't random. They describe exactly what these voices do. The enemy voice tears you down. It says you're not enough. It holds you back. It says that's too risky. It makes you quit. Oh, this is too hard anyway. Now, on the other hand, the ally voice cuts through the noise. It says focus on what matters. It keeps you moving. It says you've handled worse than this. It learns from failure. That didn't work. Let's try something else. But here's the catch though. The devastating truth is that the enemy voice almost always wins by default. Your brain is hardwired to listen to negativity first. It's scanning for threats, trying to keep you safe. And each time you let that voice win, it grows stronger, carving deeper pathways in your brain that become harder to escape. And this creates the trap that holds most people back their entire lives. This is a new wisdom. Ancient texts warned us thousands of years ago. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, says, "For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy." Your mind has no neutral setting. It's either working for you or it's destroying you. Now, my enemy voice used to run my entire life. In my early 20s, during my undergrad, whenever things got hard, it would whisper, "This is pointless. Have a smoke, have a drink, just play video games." And I listened every single time. Assignments piled up, goals faded away, my confidence crumbled. And this voice convinced me I wasn't good enough to succeed. But then I discovered something life-changing. I could train this voice, just like training your muscles. Here's what most people miss. Every single win or failure in your life begins with that voice in your head. The job you didn't apply for, the relationship you sabotaged, goals you abandoned, all because of that space between your ears. So how do you flip the script? How do you turn this inner enemy into the greatest coach? Here's exactly what to do. Step number one is to catch your enemy voice in action. For the next 3 days, write down all the negative thoughts you hear, word for word. What triggered them, what they made you do or not do. Now here's why this works. There's a neuroscientist called Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA, and he found that simply labeling emotions reduces the amygdala activity by up to 50%. So think of it like this. Your enemy voice is like a pickpocket. It steals your confidence so smoothly that you don't even notice it's happening. But the moment you shine a light on it and say, "I see you," it loses its power. Now, a few years ago, I caught my enemy voice red-handed. Every morning at 9 a.m., like clockwork, it said, "You're behind again." And here's what was happening is that my morning routine had evolved into this monstrous 3-hour ritual. Physical fitness, meditation, spiritual practice, journaling, things that actually filled my tank for the day ahead. But my enemy voice saw me not working at 9 a.m. and it attacked, right? And the irony was that this wasn't procrastination. This was intentional. I had deliberately chosen to invest these hours in my physical and mental fitness, my spiritual growth, my happiness, my fulfillment. And these 3 hours made everything else in my day better. Sharper thinking, better energy, more resilient under pressure. But my enemy voice didn't care. It just saw that we were behind schedule. and it started to assault. And once I identify this pattern, the exact time, the exact trigger, the spell broke. Step number 2, change your language. Stop saying, I am not good at this. Instead, say, I notice I'm having thoughts about not being good at this. Now, this isn't word games or word jugglery. This is cognitive diffusion, a technique from acceptance and commitment therapy that creates psychological distance from thoughts. So imagine thoughts as clouds passing through the sky of your mind. Now, you're not the clouds. You're the sky watching the clouds move through. So the moment you say, I notice I'm having the thought that ... you become the observer, not the victim. Let me just tell you a story about when my second kid was born, my son. This was in 2024. Right after my son was born, my wife was having really strong feelings of sadness. And that put a lot of pressure on the relationship. And one day, after having gone through weeks of, hardly any sleep, of constantly having to serve the kid and, my wife, for example, there was such a, strong tension that built up because that there was the friction in, the way we communicated with each other, and also because of the feelings of sadness that my wife had. At some point, that tension built up, and I remember standing in the kitchen, and my wife walked past, and she said something about something. I don't even know what anymore. But what I do remember is that at that point, I boiled over, and I couldn't handle the pressure anymore. And my body just came up with this response of anger. I actually felt in my hands this itch as if I wanted to punch something, which I had done in my early teens, right? So I knew this feeling, but I hadn't had it in years, in about 8 years or something. And so I realized that this was happening, and I could actually just stand, kind of like observe myself having this experience. 10 years ago, I would have definitely just punched something. And in this case, I was able to recognize that this was a response to something that was happening. And I could just observe that response and decide, no, I'm not going to, go with this response. In fact, I'm going to step away, take a break, go to my room, and did some meditation, did some breathing. And then, when everything was calm and on an even keel, I was able to get back and we could talk it out at a later stage. And that was really important to be able to do that, because that catching the thought, catching the response in the moment enables you to then respond effectively to, that emotion in terms of behavior. Step number 3 is to take immediate action, even tiny ones. When your enemy voice says, skip the workout today, then immediately just do one push-up. When it whispers, you'll fail anyway, just take one small step forward. Now, here's the science. Each tiny action creates what behavioral psychologists call behavioral momentum. And it's like starting a flywheel. The first push is the hardest, right? But each subsequent push gets easier. And your brain doesn't distinguish between big wins and small wins neurologically. Both release dopamine, both strengthen the neural pathways, both prove to your, subconscious that you're someone who follows through. And I learned this during my PhD when I was overwhelmed by all the research that I had to do, and my enemy voice screamed, this is impossible, man. Don't do it. Do something else. So I committed to writing just one paragraph per day. Some days, one sentence, became one paragraph became one page. Some days it stayed just one paragraph. But every day I proved my enemy voice wrong. That tiny rebellion became my doctoral thesis, right? And so these aren't just feel-good exercises. They're actually behavioral interventions backed by decades of research on neuroplasticity and habit formation. So every time you choose your ally voice over your enemy voice, you rewire your brain. The science is really clear. You're either training your mind or your mind is training you. Now, here's the cold truth. Most people watching this right now won't do anything. They'll think, that's a great video. I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes never. Don't be like most people. Right after this video ends, literally when it finishes, take 60 seconds. Catch one negative thought, write it down, create the distance from it, take one tiny action against it. One moment of courage can change everything. Your inner voice is with you until your last breath, so make sure it's the coach that pushes you to greatness and not the enemy that keeps you small. The choice really is yours right now. Like Horace said, rule your mind or it will rule you.
Hey, Editor Yannick here. I just wanted to say that this is the most important work that you'll ever do. Making your mind your ally. But here's the problem. This takes time. And if your calendar is a war zone right now, then you'll never get to it. You'll keep saying one day when things slow down, but it never does. So here's what I'm suggesting. I made a video showing you how to reclaim 10 to 15 hours every week, the complete system, space in your calendar, energy all day, and the link's in the description below. So watch the video, reclaim time so you have more time for doing the work that matters. And as always, go make an impact.